For this creative piece, I am going to construct a piece of art that demonstrates techniques relating to this semester's teachings, discussions, and readings. You'll be able to see my artistic process, and with that, the experimentation, tribulations, and knowledge that goes into making a piece of this size. What you can see here is the base layers and colours being formed. This is essential to be able to grasp where the piece is beginning and where it's headed. Just like in Australian film history, we had to start somewhere. Impasto medium is a type of paste that you add to paint in order for it to gain body and malleability, like you can see here. Like impasto, two pioneers in film history are responsible for a nation whose cinema gained some body and credibility. Ken G. Hall and Charles Duvall were in the biz for so long, you could say that their career was made up of forward-thinking, intuitive methods and incredible flexibility. The 1970s brought the Australian New Wave, and with that, the classic use of landscape. Here I'm using deep desert oranges, sun-burning yellow, Pacific Ocean blue, rainforest green, just to name a few. Picnic at Hanging Rock was the first film we viewed that had a landscape that we could pretty much relate to. We discussed in tutorials how we could characterise the classic Australian landscape. We couldn't really just think of one aspect. There's white sand beaches, red expansive desert, lush green rainforest, and crystal clear water. The particular area of interest from this unit that I will be responding to creatively comes from the question, what are the stems that make up the Australian film? Is it patriotism and our use of stereotypes? Or even our multiculturalism? Or is it our genre films that won up expectations here at home and in the international market? In actual fact, it's a combination of all of these, and more. Wake in Fright and Crocodile Dundee were films that were highly received overseas, but weren't as highly regarded here in Australia. And why? Was it because people didn't like the idea of exercising stereotypes? We thought, well hang on, if these films are so highly received overseas, then why should we steer clear of them? Although my piece is original, I am playing with the idea of patriotism and stereotypes by creating an artwork that depicts the classic Aussie landscape. Where do we draw borders around Australia? And do we need to? This is not only a question of the inevitable, unstoppable increase of international co-production. It is a question of self-defined cultural identity, and it impacts the films we make. This quote, taken from Week 7's readings, really resonates with what we've been discussing in the tutorials. The advancements in the ethnic diversity of Australian society in the early 90s to noughties have been really multicultural, leaving no part of the Australian culture untouched. Weeks 9 and 10 covered the idea that the Australian cinema has a market for the genre film. So does the expectation come into play when we see an Australian genre film? I think it certainly does. The Saw series paved the way for a serious international recognition when it comes to the horror genre. The same comes for comedy, although the market is slightly higher for this genre, playing on the Australian larrikin patriot as seen in The Castle. As you can see here, the techniques I'm using throughout this piece gain their own expectation based on previous techniques you have seen me perform. And to change this dramatically, say if I started splashing watercolour in here, it will make for a really negative final piece. As I begin to put the finishing touches on the piece, you can see all the elements and techniques combining together. This corresponds to the area of interest discussed earlier. The abstract Aussie landscape depicted holds the symbolism of multiculturalism, expectation, and how Australian cinema is received both at home and internationally. I began with a vague idea of what I wanted to create, but I let the ideas from the semester inspire and guide me.